To help me navigate this whole discourse on women and sport and the payment parity that exists is a panel of experienced individuals in the world of sport. My first guest is going to be Fran Hilton Smith. Fran Hilton is a member of the CAF Technical Committee and Women's Football Advocate, and also she is also a former Assistant Technical Director at South African Football Association. Fran Hilton Smith is dedicated to developing women's football and sports all over the African continent. My other guest is Mikhala Barasa, who's not a guest in this show, has been on this show a couple of times. Mikhala is an advocate of the High Court of Kenya. Apart from that, she is a lawyer at Maura Mudhoni, Mikhala, Faraji and Associates. Apart from that, Mikhala is the reigning champion of Miss Kenya bodybuilding in the bikini category. Also, she is the first runners-up in the International Diamond Cup in India 2019. My able panelists, welcome to this timely conversation that I feel that we should be having in the sports. Mikhala, good to have you again on this particular platform. Very quickly, you've been a bodybuilder, you participated in events, and the topical issue usually comes about in terms of how much people are paid. Maybe just quickly before I cross over to Fran, I just wanted to get your experience in terms of the pay disparity issue.
Thank you, Nasha, for having me on your show. It's always lovely to see the Metropole family. So for us, for the most part, that is one of the things that we are fighting a lot about, because the pay gap between the men and women is usually 1/3. Like if the cake is 3 out of 3, women usually get 1/3 of it, and sometimes it's even lower for other categories. We just completed a festival at City Stadium last weekend. That was a step in the right direction towards giving women a little bit of a decent amount of prize money, because women got half of what the men were getting. We're still not yet there, but we're moving periodically. We're moving slowly towards the right direction. But for the longest time, you could get like the guys, the winner, overall winner, the guy would get like 100,000 shillings, and then the lady gets 10,000 Kenya shillings, like a tenth of the prize money. So, and then, that's like the figure category. Then the bikini category, they give us like 6,000 or 7,000 shillings. So you compete for the passion, not really for the money, but things are getting, we're trying to get things better.
Okay. Fran, you've been a player and you've also been a member of a technical team. Maybe if I would like to borrow from your experience, how was your experience in your player days and now? Have things quite changed in terms of compensation for women in sports?
Well, thank you, Sean. I think that when I was playing, I got nothing. And for many years, women footballers got nothing. But I think in recent times, most teams started getting allowance, especially and including Africa. And I think women's football has made huge strides in world football. And I think it's led to where we were at recently, where the anytime world champions, the USA, went to court to try and get a balance in the payment that women footballers should get. We don't want anything special. We just want to be treated equally. And I think that's the path we're on. There's still a long way to go.
Okay. You've worked a lot with Banyana. Maybe what do you think is the biggest hurdle in terms of going to the table, probably to the organizers of tournaments and telling them, we need to have men and women be compensated equally? What has been the biggest hurdle from you, especially from the technical side of the sports?
Well, I think previously, of course, men's football's been professional for many years, and players have been playing professional. On TV, they have huge sponsorships. When it comes to even kit and equipment. Often when we have a camp, the different sponsors are coming and fighting with each other to give the male players soccer boots and trainers, whereas the women often have to even share boots and trainers because they don't have sponsors. But in recent times, specifically talking about the developments in Africa, many women now are starting to play professional football in Europe at a high level. So now the argument that the men are more popular on TV more is starting to fade a bit as the women take an equal footing in world football as professional players. So I think that slowly it's changing. Some countries have already equated the pay, in Norway, Australia. We even have Sierra Leone in Africa where the women are getting equal pay, and that's what we've got to push for, to be equal.
Okay. Mikhala, the biggest argument that people usually have in terms of this whole conversation is that men bring, I know it's sort of a fallacy in one way or another, but the argument has always been that men have responsibility compared to the female competitors and such kind of things in terms of the brand visibility and the amount of income that they probably bring to the table. Do you agree with this sentiment?
For the most part, I do not. I don't know if you followed the March Madness, saga with Sedona Prince and the NCAA. It was sometime in March, if I'm not very wrong, where there's this lady from University of Oregon called Sedona Prince, and she was complaining about how very poorly equipped the women's gym was as compared to the men's basketball gym was at the tournament itself. And yes, there were 64 teams of women represented. But getting back to the issue of responsibility, it's not like women do not have a responsibility to uphold the sport. I could tell you I am doing more for my sport than most of the men in the sport. I am knocking doors that men in my sport are not knocking. So therefore, I deserve just as much as those men get. There are people who have been titled severally in my sport, but they're still not getting out there to uphold the sport, to talk about bodybuilding openly, to talk about it transparently, to uplift the sport, to try and run for office. So I don't think that in my sport, I don't think that argument carries value. And then people come to watch men just as much as they come to watch women. Actually, you might say men's fans might be more. I don't know. I don't know if it's a statistic issue, but people still come to watch women's shows. So it's not just a responsibility on men.
Okay. Fran, do you agree with that sentiment that men have a lot of responsibilities compared to their female counterparts?
Well, I think in modern society, I think things have changed a lot and responsibilities have shifted a lot in recent times, and I think that in many cases it's almost equal, and therefore the women need to be treated equally. I think if, of course, I just talk about football, the women's football now is televised. I mean, in our country we have a national league. The women's football's televised. There's a lot of responsibility on the women to be out there and showing off the sport. And women are generally, I've found in recent times, the ones who are the buyers. They go out and buy everything for the family. They're the shoppers. They're the ones who buy the clothes. Many of them are single mothers who are now earning money and looking after the family. So I think they should be treated on an even footing.
Okay. Now, the question that probably people are asking, we've talked about women in sport. Now, how do we attack the whole issue in terms of getting to a point where everybody is getting an equal pay? So what probably would be the starting point to getting a consensus on this whole issue? Mikhala, what do you think we should attack this issue from?
First of all, I think for me, what breaks my heart is that we actually have to ask for equal pay as women. That breaks my heart all the time. It does break my heart. But then again, going back to it is, I know this is a little bit unconventional, but it's something I've been thinking about for a while, is, well, women still come to watch sports, women still enjoy sports. It's approaching sponsors and people that pay for sporting activities and sporting goods from the perspective that, well, it's a lipstick brand. Please come and sponsor a football tournament. Probably women will see, okay, it's a lipstick brand sponsoring football. I might as well try and watch and see what the women in football are about. It's kind of changing the narrative from being only betting companies, travel and things that men like, to branching more into things that women like and women resonate with. I mean, would it be so bad to have a diaper brand sponsoring a women's tournament? No, because it will actually resonate with mothers. I think that is one of the things. The second thing is just educate, and try to demystify some of these myths that men carry more responsibilities. Look, a male bodybuilder does not train harder than I do. We train probably with the same intensity. A male bodybuilder does not buy less supplements than I do. Granted, they might need more, but they don't buy less. They don't incur less than I do. That part of conversing and just educating the masses and telling them, you know what, women deserve just as many seats at the table as men. I think that is another thing that we should very, very actively start doing.
Okay. Fran, from your perspective, what should be the attacking point in this whole discourse?
From our point of view, I believe that the organizing bodies like FIFA, for instance, in football and in all major sports, should be the ones who start equating the money. I mean, at the last Women's World Cup in France, I think the prize money was 30 million US dollars, whereas the men is 400 million US dollars. And the same at CAF, the disparity between what the women get in prize money and the men is huge. So I think in all sports codes, the organizing bodies need to be the ones that set the trend and start making the changes, because then that will filter down to the respective countries and bodies and whatever to ensure equality. And I think for me a big factor was a country like England, where football originated, equating their men and women. And Brazil, the men have won the World Cup 4 or 5 times. They have equated the salaries, the allowances that the players get. So it depends, it must start at the high level and filter down.
Okay. We are going to be taking a short commercial break. After the break, we are going to be continuing the conversation on women and sport. How far are we to realizing an equal pay in the sports?